How many commissioners we have?
Oh, we got 6. Yeah.
5:30. So
We start 5:30? Okay.
whenever you feel. One. Yeah.
Good evening and welcome to the regular monthly meeting of the Augusta Historic Preservation Commission. The Historic Preservation Commission hears and makes decisions on applications of certificate of appropriateness, COA, in accordance with the powers granted under Section 7, Chapter 4 of the Augusta, Georgia Code. In making a decision on a COA, the Commission may consider, but shall not be bound by precedent. Each case shall be decided upon its merits, applying the Historic Preservation Ordinance and applicable design guidelines. If a quorum is not present at the regular meeting of the Commission, a special meeting shall be held within 14 days, calendar days, from such scheduled meeting. Any person affected by the Commission's decision may file an appeal with the Augusta Commission. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with Commission's bylaws and rules and procedures and the latest edition of Robert's Rules of Order. Unless otherwise directed by a majority of the Commission in session at the time, the Commission encourages participation in this hearing, and there is no restriction on who may address the Commission within the allotted time. But the Commission asks that public comments be brief, on subject, and directed to the Commission and not to any individual group. All right, let me ask a question. How many people are here for the 802 Green Street issue? Please raise your hands. Who's going to speak to that? Okay, thank you. Proceed.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. We've got 11 COA petitions on tonight's agenda. COA 2506, COA 2509, COA 2514, COA 2502, COA 2515, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. We will start with COA 2506. This is a petition by Shannon Walsh for a certificate of appropriateness at 2150 Battle Row, located within the Somerville Historic District. The request is to remove existing wood picket fencing to be replaced with ornamental aluminum fencing placed behind existing brickwork. So here are some photos of the subject property. You can see the fence there on the left. And we'll go back to all of this. Here are some plans presented by the applicant, and this rendering, which just came in yesterday evening. This is a 1.74 acre property situated near the western end of Battle Row at Millage Road. The property features a 6,671 square foot home, originally built per property records in 1781, along with 2 outbuildings dating to the late 19th century. There have been no recent petitions brought to the HPC regarding this property. The petitioner is requesting removal of damaged wood picket fencing along the front of the property. The pickets are mounted atop brickwork, Ornamental aluminum fencing would replace the pickets, but they would be installed just behind the brickwork. This is due to the fact that, per the petitioner, new fencing could not be secured on top of the brick without causing extensive damage to the brick. Replacing pickets in kind would require demolition and rebuilding of the brickwork. We have a rendering of the new fencing material, and photos of the damaged wood attached with this report. The property is situated in the northeast corner of Somerville and is sandwiched between larger lots along Village Road to the north and west, and smaller lots along Gary Street and Hickman Road to the east. The proposal is in keeping with some Somerville design guidelines, but is out of sync with the guideline to retain traditional fences, walls, and hedges, or replace with a similar design. The property is zoned R1, one-family residential, and there are no zoning issues presented by the petition. Comments from Historic Augusta. Fences and walls are covered in the Somerville Design Guidelines, pages 60 to 63. The first bullet point says the following: retain traditional fences, walls, and hedges. When a portion of the fence needs replacing, salvage original parts for a prominent location from a less prominent location if possible. Match old fencing in material, height, and detail. If this is not possible, use a simplified design of similar materials and height. It does not appear that the proposed new fence will match the original in material or detail and will result in a greatly altered design and appearance. The existing fence is an iconic fence design in the Somerville Historic District and is highly visible on the street. Placing a new fence behind the brick retaining wall will change the character of the structure. We would urge repairing and replicating the damaged fence on top of the retaining wall in order to preserve the original character and materials. And there are some additional comments provided in response to new information that was provided by the applicant. We commend the applicant for researching the proposal in such depth. Our research, however, reveals that this fence design has been in place at least since the 1930s and was erected by a previous owner, replicating one in the walled garden of Mount Vernon in Virginia. Quoting from two written descriptions from the early 20th century, one from Garden History of Georgia, page 294, Sandy Acres is enclosed by a white picket fence, a copy of the one around the walled garden at Mount Vernon. Its symmetrical scallops, following the natural curve of the roadway around the hill, show against the backdrop of evergreen shrubs. And two from Augusta American Guide Series, Sandy Acres, 2150 Battle Row, the Rodney Cohen home, is surrounded by a scalloped white picket fence. That concludes staff presentation at this time.
Is the petitioner present? Would you please go to this podium? Do you have anything to add to the presentation?
I presented a 4-page report with documents that total, I believe, 34 pages. I have much to add. I don't know where you'd like me to begin. Well, first of all, I can't rebuild the fence as it was originally built. It is built into a retaining wall that you can see the posts go all the way down. It's built into the columns. The retaining wall has been failing for many years prior to when we were owning it. I have pictures of the retaining wall where it's cracked. It wasn't built as it should be to modern standards, where you normally have a gravel backfill. Brick is not an ideal material to use for a retaining wall. There are numerous factors as to why it's failing. The hurricane just added more damage. It can't support a fence, and this is according to a brick mason, my fencing company. My irrigation man came out and said, there are all sorts of problems with the retaining wall at this point in time. So to rebuild it as it currently is does not seem a feasible plan. So that leaves us with the only option for me is placing a fence behind it. And then we have an argument over material. The home was built in 1781, and I realize that the picket fence has been there for a long time. However, in 1781, or when the other farmhouse, I believe in the early 1800s, was added on to it, picket fences wouldn't have been seen in the area. I mean, picket fences were not even popular until 1870. They weren't mass-produced until later on in the 19th century, in the late part of the 19th century. What you will find is you'll find wrought iron at that point in time. I sent a photo to Mr. Jones showing a picture of a late 19th century view of our home where there wasn't a fence. The fence across the street was a barbed wire fence at the time. So I guess my argument would be that it's not necessarily historic in nature to the home, and I think that's the argument that Historic Augusta wants to make, but I don't find that to be the case. And as far as materials, I find the wrought iron look, which can be replicated with aluminum, to be a better option. If I don't have to talk in the microphone, hopefully you can hear me. To be a better option for a multitude of reasons. I mean, since we bought the home, we've had numerous problems. Our property is sloped, so we constantly have the problem with the retaining wall, all of the water pushing on it, all of the water coming up to the pickets. I have a video, if you want me to share it, I'd be happy to share it. Without the hurricane damage, I can walk along every single picket, and I can just, with my hands, break the ends of every single picket. It's just soaking up moisture. It doesn't fit the nature of the property. The property is heavily wooded. We have trees coming over, reaching over the street. I mean, still, even with a hurricane, we still do have that. And it's always showing algae. I have to go out there and scrub it. It's always rotting continually. The idea that I could put in a fencing material that is, prevalent in Somerville. I even showed we're Historic District 1, a map showing that the most prominent fencing material in that area is actually either aluminum or wrought iron. Wood fencing is very uncommon in this district that I'm in. It rivals that of chain link fence. So when I'm looking at what's historic to an 1800s home, 1781 home, you're looking at wrought iron. And I think, since I see it in the neighborhood, I think it would be an appropriate material. I can't rebuild the fence that we had. I can try my best to, fix the retaining wall, place the aluminum fencing behind that, and make it look like many of the homes in Somerville.
Anything else? I mean, okay.
I mean, if you have any concerns, I'd certainly love to. Okay, yes.
Anyone in the audience have a comment about the fence?
Step on back.
Sit down.
Here we go. Herd Robertson, 960 Hickman Road. I'm familiar with the fence that's there. It is a modern lumber fence. May have replaced something historic in the past. I don't know. I'm familiar with the condition, and I think the applicant's description of the condition is accurate. And I think the applicant's description of the difficulty of replicating is accurate. And I think that aluminum fencing, decorative as shown, is in the Somerville design guidelines, so I think that would be appropriate. I know that the commission is going to have to rule against homeowners in certain situations. I'd like to see those reserved for situations where actual historic architectural elements are being removed. I think you all should approve this one. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, anyone else from the audience have any comments? State your name and address, please.
Hi there, I'm Laura Irwin. I live at 728 Millage Road, and The Wolves are neighbors of mine, and I absolutely sympathize with what they're going through. We have a white picket fence in front of our house that wasn't original to the house, but it's been there about 100 years, and I think we've replaced it about 5 times in the 15 years that we've been there, and thanks to the hurricane, we'll be doing that a 6th time. It is complicated and annoying, and it is character defining, and my house has a wooden fence. Next door to me has a wooden fence, which is the house in front of theirs, between their house and Millage Road. There are a lot of wooden fences. If there's some way that we could replicate this, other than putting an aluminum fence that doesn't look anything like what is there now. We do have some people that put aluminum fences up in Somerville. I don't think that that is appropriate in a historic neighborhood. At the very least, it would, I think, would need to be wrought iron.
Any other comments from the audience? Okay, commissioners, do you have any questions of the applicant?
Do you have the same problems with your land? Is it sloped like hers is? Do you have water runoff like she does coming off that hill onto those bricks and all?
I absolutely have water runoff because I have large azaleas that were overhanging it and rot, and it turning green. I have to get it power washed a couple times a year.
Okay,
and I do. I have trouble with rot.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the landscape. What I'm talking about is the ground itself. Is it sloped to your? Is there a brick retaining wall at the bottom?
I have cement. I have a cement retaining wall that I've had to have rebuilt a few times. Yes.
Okay, so it's not historic brick right now.
Mine was built. I mean, we're guessing, but it's probably sometime around the same time, around 1930, probably is when these fences were put up, which is almost 100 years ago, but not quite.
And you just don't have the drainage problem like she does at her.
I absolutely have a drainage problem, but it's from
just from the trees itself.
From the trees
raining,
itself, not from
coming off the hill onto that retaining wall.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
Yes, I have a question for the applicant. Have you priced on what it would cost you to replace the wooden fence compared to the rough iron fence?
Well, when you say replacing the wooden fence, do you mean putting a material that's wood up versus rebuilding what was there?
I guess both, because I guess
Okay.
duplication, because I'm pretty sure from looking at it, I rode by there, and I see you lost some of the fence. I don't know whether or not you were able to save the pieces that are missing. So I assume that with that, how hard would it be for you to find, I guess it would be kind of hard to find the same type of material that the existing fence was made out of, correct?
I don't know. I think my standpoint is I think that it would be too much of a burden to ask me to rebuild the structure that was there, the fencing that was there, simply because it's built into the retaining wall. And the retaining wall is failing. And with that in mind, I had a brick mason come out yesterday, and he was, looking at different options, taking a look at it, because, I received staff recommendations to repair the wall. And I looked to him and I said, well, what do you think? And he said, looking at the brick wall, the damage, hurricane damage, on top of the damage that's been accumulating, it almost, he's like, it almost, to keep it as it is, would need a rebuild. And I said, well, what kind of price? And he said, over 100,000. And I'm not even looking at building the fence. I'm just looking at tearing that down, which is what would need to happen. You have the post going into it, like I said, and there are 5 columns there, and they built into that. And so to rebuild that fence, to ask a homeowner to spend, over $100,000 to rebuild a fence, I think is absurd. I mean, that's an economic hardship just to keep something that somebody likes. Again, it's not necessarily historic to the property, or I shouldn't say the property, it's not historic to the home. And to say, because of that, we want the whole entire thing rebuilt as it was, I'm sorry, the hurricane just took it out and made it so that we can't do that. And so we're looking at other options, and, that's one of the reasons why we're looking at different materials. And the brick mason said, what we could do is we could try and reinforce this wall with stucco, give it some support, but we can't build on top of it. It's just not possible. Not only would it, I think in the report it said it would damage the antique brick, it just wouldn't even be able to hold a fencing post.
Thank you for your answer.
Yes.
For the applicant, okay.
So another question.
If you're standing out on the street facing your house and you look to the right, who owns that property to your right? And is there a fence out in front of that property?
To my right is a wood fence. To my left is not a fence, and across the street is a chain link fence. And I actually took the time to go through my district and using Google Maps to map it out, to go through District 1 and going by myself. Wood fences are very few and far between in the portion of District 1 that we live. I went out and mapped it myself, and the only fence that rivals that is chain link. There's equal amounts of chain link to wood, and the rest of them are either brick or either aluminum and brick, or a brick combination, or wrought iron brick, or just wrought iron.
So the houses on your street in front of you, beside you and all, do not have picket fences as of this time?
The one
except for maybe...
the one to the right of me has a picket fence, and we're on the outskirts of Somerville. So to the left of me, I don't believe that's the historic district anymore. And then the one across the street is chain link.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Another question?
Hi, sorry.
Hi.
So I'm wondering, the brick mason, will it still be structurally effective as a retaining wall when he's done with it?
That's the idea. The idea is when you put the stucco on, at least according to him, it's going to stabilize that. It's going to fill in the cracks. We're missing mortar, and so it would fill in part of that. It would make it would hold it until, and it would kind of give us some breathing room, honestly, to say, okay, we'll go ahead and we'll do this now, and that at a later date, we can take a look at drainage. I mean, this is a plan that might take some time. It might take us a while to just say, instead of dumping a huge amount
Right.
on a fence, we can work with this, and then we can come back at a later date and start draining some of that overflow, or even the groundwater out of there, so that it's not pushing on that retaining wall.
Yeah, just wondering what the integrity of the retaining wall would be once he's repaired it. And it looks like from the photos, and I could be wrong on this, but you should know, it looks like the fence is mounted on posts that are not on the brick, but like cement.
They are.
Intervals.
Yes, they are. They're in
So
the
we're not
cement.
resting on the brick, per se.
It's not resting on the brick, no, but I don't know how we do that. I mean, I guess we still have to, if you're asking, what specifically are you asking?
It looks like the posts supporting the fence are not mounted into the brick. It looks like in the pictures, they're mounted on a cement block that's inserted
correct,
into.
but to say I guess if you're asking me about a rebuild, they would still have to tear that part of the cement out, and again, that's going to cause damage to the retaining wall, obviously, because it's part of the retaining wall, and to the brick next to it. So Yes, I know that it's not on the brick, but just removing that portion in order to rebuild, say, a post. Is that the question?
Kinda. I don't
Okay.
understand why you'd have to tear that out to mount another post to it.
Because it was built, if you take a look at the photo, I can even show you some photos on my phone. It goes all the way to the bottom.
Of that cement
Of that
structure.
cement
Okay, that's
structure.
what I need to know.
Okay, all right.
And one last thing, is wrought iron a consideration over aluminum? Because, I mean, aluminum, it's fine in some areas, but your house is so beautiful, and I think it, deserves a fence that, goes with that. Wrought iron does
I
look a little
appreciate
bit
that, but I
better
have
than
no idea
aluminum.
where I would even go for that, and
You would or would not?
and to fit it with what we have versus having somebody actually say we can specify it to these dimensions, and I'm not sure that wrought iron can be done like that.
Right. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from commission? I entertain a motion from. Gentlemen, I can't make a motion, so somebody has to do something. Yes, sir.
Make a motion that we approve it.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, show of hands, raise your hand. Motion carries. Move on.
All right, our second item tonight, COA 2509. This is a petition by Jason and Mary May for a certificate of appropriateness at 1125 Highland Avenue, located within the Somerville Historic District. The request is to make repairs to a brick wall and driveway and to replace the front steps, adding a step to decrease steepness. Here's some photos of the subject property along Highland Avenue. You can see here the gravel drive and the front steps. Here's a site sketch presented by the applicant showing where gravel would be converted into concrete. And we'll go back to this. This is a 0.58 acre property situated along the west side of Highland Avenue between Hillcrest and Bellevue Avenue. It features a 4,750 square foot home dating per property records to 1915. There are no recent petitions regarding this property. The petitioner is requesting approval for repairs to the front of the property. The steps at the front of the house have cracked and are in unsafe condition. In replacing the steps, the petitioner requests consideration of an additional step to make the ascent less steep. And staff are working with petitioner on a sketch of those new steps. But materials would be in kind. The petitioner is also requesting to replace the gravel driveway with concrete. There would be no new impervious surface or additional pavement where there is not gravel currently. Finally, the brick wall at the front of the property will be repaired in kind. There are photos attached of the current condition. The property is located along Highland Avenue at the western boundary of the Somerville District. The corridor is marked by single-family homes with a wide range of sizes. The project generally conforms to Somerville design guidelines, and the property is zoned R1, one-family residential. There are no zoning issues presented by this petition. Comments from Historic Augusta. Driveways, off-street parking, and walks are covered in the Somerville Design Guidelines on pages 58 to 60. It appears that the COA proposal is to replace the concrete driveway, walks, and steps in kind, and to repair the brick and stone retaining wall along the sidewalk. If that is the correct interpretation of the application, it will meet the design guidelines. That concludes staff presentation.
Is the petitioner present? Please come forward and state your name and address.
Jason and Mary May, 1125 Highland.
Do you have anything to add to the presentation? I think we had a question at, the reason why I postponed it about the border. Is that being addressed?
I'm sorry, the border of the,
The brick, and were you about the steps?
notice there was a question about the border along the circular driveway,
Right.
so we wanted to ask about that. 'Cause that will,
I guess just whether or not it had to have brick lining the outside of the driveway, just because that'd increase the cost. It could just be concrete and stamped concrete as it goes from the road to the driveway. Well, this is your time to plead your case, and then we'll take comments from the audience, then we can come back and address questions from us to you. Okay.
well, right now it's gravel and dirt and concrete, and it's a mess from,
Yeah, from the hurricane and all that.
yeah.
So for sure, it needs to be repaired. I guess we figured that if we're gonna repair it, that it would look best if we did concrete. I mean, we could stick with gravel, but we just figured the concrete would look best. I think the only question as far as the feedback we had gotten, again, was about the lining the outside of the concrete with brick. Just because it's a fairly big driveway, and so that would be a lot of brick. Yeah.
Hey, how you
Do
doing?
you have anything else to add to this? Okay, well, just, let me ask this question. Is anyone in the audience wants to address this issue or have comments? Okay, if not, commissioners?
Yes, I have a question. Have you looked into the cost of the brick, and if so, what is that cost?
So to add the brick would, if we do math, would be,
We're waiting on that quote, but we were told, we've gotten a quote for the concrete, and then we were told you have to do an additional shelf to support the
Right.
brick, and then you've got the brick and add,
Yeah, I
according to
yeah.
my calculations
We're
about
estimating like $10,000 just for the brick.
that portion of the driveway.
Right.
Further questions?
The picture I see now, which is showing the driveway and the curbing, it would cost you as much to come back when you lay the concrete to do this curbing as you would the brick? Or did somebody just mention brick would be better?
It was,
Going back to the original curbing that you have on here now
Right.
with the concrete driveway.
Yeah,
Is that what you were saying, that it would cost a lot more?
no, it was, so we had gotten some feedback before this. I think we got it just the other day. And it said that, essentially that the recommendation was to not so much the brick at the transition from the road to the driveway, but to line my understanding was to line the outside of the entire driveway with brick. And so I think, because our plan was for the transition from the driveway to the road was to do stamped concrete, which I think was okay, was the impression we had gotten. So it was mainly just the brick lining the outside of the entire driveway in the property, what I understood.
So you didn't get an estimate to replace what's there now in the way of the,
we talked, sorry.
so let me ask you this question. You don't want to go back to that type of curbing?
I would love to have that curbing back, but we were told what's available modern is, it looks more industrial and less, I mean, this is,
Sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah. They said it would look essentially almost
replicate
like
this.
sidewalk, and then it would curb, right? That essentially that they could curb it, but it wouldn't be raised like this, because we actually prefer this curbing. I misunderstood. Anyway, sorry. But so we prefer the curbing along the edge, because it looks great. But they said, one, it's really beat up now. I mean,
Right.
And then two, they said to do that, it essentially, it would look like sidewalk, is how it was sort of explained to us and then the pictures that they showed us.
Industrial parking lot. That's
Right. That it wouldn't look like,
Almost like your backup things that you see in
Yeah,
parking lots.
almost,
That
almost,
type
yeah.
of
That's a
wheel.
good analogy.
wheel-
Yep.
Okay.
Weren't thrilled with that idea. So,
No,
I wouldn't,
I would love to keep that.
technically, I wouldn't be either. Okay, all right. You've answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No worries.
I think I'm on, right. All right, so I understand it's a long driveway and doing like a brick surround around the whole driveway may be cost prohibitive. What about doing a brick apron at both ends of the driveway where they meet the street? And the reason we do that is because it breaks up the big expanse of concrete and just makes it look more appropriate and in keeping with other driveways in that local historic district.
So
Would that be, would having a decorative stamped apron
Yeah, I
not
think we'd
be
actually
appropriate?
talked
or-
about that.
Something to break up the monotony of having that much concrete in what is a
So I think that was
good-sized
our plan,
driveway.
actually, was
What
to
we've
do-
done in the past
Yeah.
is just specify like just a brick apron, in your case, at both entrances, so that it looks a little more appropriate. And I think that'd be a lot more cost-effective than doing the surround of the brick for the whole driveway. Would that be an option? Would you consider doing that?
We'd be happy to look into it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners? All right, gentlemen. There you go.
So with the proposal from John, would they have to come back if they, since they want to look into that? Are you speaking of as far as price wise? The one that, the suggestion from John?
It goes, so, would, is it all possible? Is this the,
I
if we could
guess
find
that-
out tonight,
yeah.
that'd be great.
So I guess if that's the recommendation, we could.
Yeah.
So in the past, in a case like this, where we're trying to save you time and you've already been here once,
Yeah.
Sam or Ryan, could we take like an average of what the driveway aprons look like, the size, and just have it staff approved and maybe consult with one of us, maybe Nathan would be a good one to consult with and do a staff approval based on just giving us the final dimensions of the apron?
Yes.
Yes, we've done that before, right?
So long as, I mean, you have the right to delegate your authority to one of the commission members, so long as most of the questions of the COA is answered by your approval.
Yeah. I think Nathan's the most logical choice for that. And I think as long as Ryan could confer with Nathan, if he's okay with it, and the estimate comes in at something that's amenable to you all, that would be good enough for me.
Do I have a motion, gentlemen?
I make a motion to approve with the apron being staff approved after consulting with Nathan Vick.
A second.
Motion's been made, properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, passes unanimously. Next case. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our third item tonight, COA 2514. This is a petition by SH Investment Group LLC for a certificate of appropriateness at 802 Green Street, located within the Downtown Historic District. The request is to demolish the existing building on the lot. And here are some photos of the subject property. We'll go back to as needed. right. This is a .46 acre property located at the southwest corner of Green Street and 8th Street. Situated on the property is the former home of the First Baptist Church of Augusta, a Beaux Arts structure originally built in 1902. The site is significant as the founding location of the Southern Baptist Convention in 1845. This event occurred in the building on site, which predated the current building. The 1902 building was listed in 1972 on the National Register of Historic Places as a building of local architectural significance. Just 3 years later, in 1975, the First Baptist Church relocated to its current location in West Augusta, and the building has been largely abandoned since the early 2000s. The petitioner is requesting approval to demolish the building. This petition is subsequent to an evidentiary hearing conducted by the HPC on January 16 of 2025 in accordance with Section 7452A of the Augusta, Georgia Code, which reads as follows. The Historic Preservation Commission shall have the authority to monitor the condition of historic properties and properties within a historic district to determine if they are being allowed to deteriorate by neglect. Such conditions as broken windows, doors and openings which allow the elements and vermin to enter, the deterioration of exterior architectural features, or the deterioration of a building's structural system shall constitute failure to provide ordinary maintenance or repair. Based on the evidence gathered at that hearing, the HPC then acted against the petitioner in accordance with Section 7452B of the Augusta, Georgia Code. In the event that the Historic Preservation Commission determines that there has been a failure to provide ordinary maintenance or repair, the Historic Preservation Commission will notify the owner of the property and set forth the steps necessary to comply with the provisions of this section. The owner of such property will have 10 days to apply for the appropriate certificate of appropriateness. This demolition request before you, then, is the petitioner's response to this action. A letter from the petitioner is attached with this report explaining their rationale for the request. The property is situated in the 800 block of Green Street. The nearby area mixes office space, a few residential structures, and several churches. The downtown design guidelines identify criteria for consideration in demolishing buildings. Demolition of this church building is generally incompatible with those criteria. The property is zoned B2, that's the general business zoning, and there are no zoning issues presented by this petition. Commentary from Historic Augusta regarding this request. The old First Baptist Church at 802 Green Street is perhaps the finest example of the Beaux Arts style of architecture in Augusta, and it was designed by noted Georgia architect Willis Denny, and it is listed individually on the National Register of Historic Places. Demolition of this building should be out of the question. It seems highly likely that the cost of demolition would far exceed the cost of a new dome and roof. We recommend denial of the certificate of appropriateness as presented, but would hope some reasonable schedule for making repairs to the roof and dome and securing the building would be advisable for all parties involved. We also recommend mothballing the building to standards that will ensure its preservation and that will slow the deterioration until such time as rehabilitation can occur. Post-demolition plans are required, as well as cost estimates for mothballing and demolition for evaluation in considering demolition of contributing historic buildings. And staff at this time do recommend a denial of the petition as it has been presented. That concludes presentation.
Is the petitioner here to address the commission? Petitioner here to address the commission? Do we have anyone here that would choose to address this issue from Historic Augusta? Step forward to the mic and then name and address and position.
Robert Malden, 2240 McDowell, and right across the street, 529 Green Street. I'm current president of Historic Augusta. We concur with our statement that's been made. That was done with extensive research, obviously. We've talked to this issue in the past. We have held out our hand multiple times to multiple owners and over the decades, actually. And unfortunately, we can't sit back and just sit on our hands at this point because the building deterioration is accelerating. And it boils down to basically demolition by neglect presently. And that is obvious when you look at the building. Hurricane Helene added some more demolition to it, but the property is obviously a significant location, significant presence, significant history and design, and it is an integral part of this community. So we strongly recommend that it be mothballed rather than demolished, and that we're ready to help in any way that we can to achieve that goal.
Any other comments from the audience? Ryan, would you introduce, we have another item that was presented to you folks from the petitioner, which he's not here, but, or the owners are not here. Would you care to share that? Can you?
Yes, and this is on page 4 of the additional materials that should be at your station. The applicant on Tuesday did present a cost estimate for a demolition of the church from Chaplain and Sons Clearing and Demolition to the amount in total of $213,375. About 75% of that would go towards demolishing the sanctuary, and the remaining would be the cost of demolishing the rear of the church building. There is an included scope there as well.
Was there any additional information on what the plans would be for the property if this demolition took place?
No other additional information was provided by the petitioner regarding post-demolition plans or anything that would go up in its place, no.
Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments at this time?
Has the owner been notified about what you were talking about with the mothball of the facility? And is he agreeing to that? Or is this a...
There's been no direct commentary to the owner at this point. They've not been responding to any inquiries on our part. The mothballing statement came up during both the hearing and in previous discussions. So it is a matter of public record, I would assume, based on that hearing.
I'm new to this argument, so that's why I'm trying to get most of the facts that I can get.
Yeah,
besides just reading what I'm reading.
Mothballing is identified in the codes for existing structures, and it allows for retaining structures without having them be occupiable.
Okay.
So it's...
And he would still own that property.
Oh, yes.
And he would still be able to continue any type of work on it to get it up to par.
Basically, you see some forms of mothballing, such as protecting window openings in areas where damage has been done. Sometimes there's fire or other hazards to properties, in which case you put in temporary provisions to basically make the envelope whole. So you stop the water entry.
Right.
Stop vandalism, stop other things that could cause either hazard to the public or immediate demolition by a storm or wind or whatever else. And that's the concern right now, is that the roof is wide open. If anybody's driven by, you can see. And that condition has been in existence for the period of time this owner's had the property. So at this point, it's accelerated because it used to be about half of it was missing. Now,
And that's the dome part,
the
right?
actual top of the dome,
Okay.
and you can see that. It's quite obvious. You can see it for many blocks. So that's the main concern. There's water coming in to the building from that, and also some of the perimeter walls. So stopping that is the primary purpose of terminating the immediate hazard to the building and give it time. And that's the prime thing for mothballing, is to provide time for owners and investors or other parties to be able to do something positive with the building, to have a restore and retain or preserve that structure.
Thank you.
Sam, in any situation, we've discussed this over and over again, but is there anything in our covenants where, not covenants, but our orders, anything where we compensate or do eminent domain on any properties? In our case?
So your question is, does HBC have eminent domain power?
Yes.
Okay, you do not have eminent domain power.
That's what I thought. Does Historic Augusta have eminent domain over this property?
No, Historic Augusta is not a government organization.
Thank you. I just wanted to get this clear about the misinformation, that we have the authority to take eminent domain and confiscate someone's property, and we don't. Any other questions, comments from the commission?
I was going to say, before we go, was there anyone else in the audience before we start to speak that had any concerns or questions about it? No?
Please state your name and address.
Heard Robertson, 960 Hickman Road. Post-demolition plan is a requirement of a demolition application in the ordinance. If that was not submitted, this is an easy denial.
Commissioners, any other comments? All right, Commissioners, I need a motion.
Before there's a motion, I would remind the commission that a motion to deny should come with a reason. And you could say, adopt what the gentleman just mentioned, as well as adopting by reference the guidelines that are in the staff recommendations in your denial or any other reason. But the reason needs to be done because the reason needs to be applicant in their notice, because that would be sort of the discussion. If the applicant so appealed, that would be the discussion at mediation, the discussion further on. Because the ordinance clearly states that there needs to be a reason in the denial.
Is that the whole recommendation from the staff? That
Well,
I know it's printed. Do we read the whole? Is that part of the whole motion?
No, and actually, with respect to the staff, the guidelines analysis is closer hewn to the actual guidelines that are in the downtown historic district. So I would rather you adopt the guidelines analysis as your reasoning for your denial, as well as the failure to include post-demolition plans, rather than the statement from staff.
Okay, gentlemen, I need a motion. Deon?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion of denial of this demolition of 802 Green due to no, number one, there's no post demolition plan given, and also to add to that, also the denial from the staff. That's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All right, gentlemen, all in favor, raise your hand. Ryan, what's the count?
I have 6 votes in favor. Commissioner Kelly? Commissioner Kelly, in abstention. The motion carries. All right, our fourth item for consideration is COA 2502. This is a petition by Executive Exteriors on behalf of Lawless Dyer for a certificate of appropriateness at 2627 Raymond Avenue, located within the Somerville Historic District. The request is to replace existing vinyl siding with fiber cement board siding. Here are some photos of the subject property on Raymond Avenue. Here's the siding. All right, so at your meeting on January 23rd, you, the Historic Preservation Commission, granted approval to this petition subject to the following 3 conditions. 1, fiber cement boards shall be of thickness not less than 5/8 of 1 inch. Condition 2, fiber cement boards shall be of exposure not less than 5 and not greater than 6 inches. And condition 3, due to the presence of texture on the previous siding and to the necessity of siding replacement as a result of recent storm damage, textured rather than smooth fiber cement boards are acceptable. The petitioner is seeking an amendment to the first condition of that approval, arguing that the fiber cement board at this thickness is not readily available. Staff is presenting their request without recommendation. We would note that denial of this request by the petitioner would simply leave the original approval and conditions from COA 2502 as you see it written out. It will leave all those conditions in effect. We did receive comments on this request from Historic Augusta. They write, in order to find an acceptable thickness for this application, our committee members have offered to advise the applicant to identify a product that will meet the guidelines. 2 potential sources that should be considered are Hardy Artisan Series siding, which has a product that is 3/4 of an inch thick, and True Exterior Siding has a product that is 5/8 of an inch thick. There may be other products that could also be considered. The 5/8 inch thickness that was recommended is an approximation rather than a precise dimension. A 1/2 inch thickness is acceptable, but not as historically accurate. That concludes staff presentation.
Is the petitioner present? Please, if you are, please address the commission and state your name and address.
My name is Lawless Dyer, 2627 Raymond Avenue.
Steve Slaughter, Executive Exteriors.
Do you have anything to add to the recommendations or the staff report?
It was more into the thickness that we're doing our research. I brought samples. That's why I had a suitcase in there for you guys to look at some of the hardy board. It's installed wide spread through like different places in the community itself. Like even the apartments on Green Street here, like they have the same hardy board that I was going to present to you guys as an option for Mr. Dyer. So I think the 5/8, I know that I would say that's like the application that is historical accurate, but I was going to get y'all's feedback of like what are y'all looking into for a historical, accurate versus like a product like a wood. If we just put pine up there, it's just going to deteriorate or, you know, it's a lot of maintenance. A hardy board that I'm suggesting, you know, he's only gonna have to maintenance, you know, painting it every 10 to 15 years. It's gonna hold, it doesn't rot. You know, squirrels and stuff don't chew on it, you know, just because of the product of the material. So that was our reason back here today. So I didn't know if I could show some examples.
Please present the examples to us, please.
And I believe I brought some smooth, but y'all said that you know, the textured, which is called cedar mill on the hardy board. Same thing as like installed on Green Street or whatever, it has a wood. And then the way they're installed, you overlap it.
Try to come around this way, so we can actually see it.
Grab a couple more pieces. Also make one that to make it look like part of that party board together. Anybody want to look at it? Somebody said it was a 1/4 inch, which would have been way too thin. But once you get an overlap at the top, I mean, you guys are asking, I mean, that thing's, I mean, I have addresses I drove around and see, like, there's, Oracle District that has up as repairs. If you can go with those. Like, you know, we do have different exposures. So definitely meet that requirement, whatever you guys decided on exposure wise.
What you presented, was that 1/2 inch thick material?
It's a little less than 1/2 inch. It's probably
Was it marketed as 1/2 inch material?
No, sir. I believe it's more closer to like 3/8.
Okay.
0.37.
Only an eighth of an inch off. You know?
I got it. I understand. I'm just asking. I'm just for clarification. That's all.
And this product's suitable for that, like, I've done other historical projects in different communities, and it's been accepted through other historical sites just because it's a valid, you know, option that, you know, keeps the historical value of the home, like maintenance and stuff like that, where you don't have rot on people that neglect, you know, some of that. So at least it's, you know, a portion of that is why we're asking for the fiber cement.
You have anything else at this time? Just, if we have any questions, just stay there. Have anyone from the audience like to make a statement about this at this time? Any comments? Going once, going twice? Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I do if I may. Eric, you mentioned the artisan hardy board. What is the difference between the artisan hardy board and what we're seeing? The thickness? Oh, sorry.
It's thicker, so it is trying to get closer, as was noted. There are some that are 1/2 inch. which is an 1/8 inch less than the target of 5/8 or 3/4, you know? Because to the point, the siding varies over the decades in terms of its thickness, as wood. So some was half, some was 5/8, some was 3/4 board. Typically, the older flat boards were 3/4 boards.
Right.
Okay, so that's the more original. All the sidings that have come since then that are replicating the old wood have tended to be 1/2 inch to 5/8, okay? So the series noted were just 2 that we found within a couple minutes of research using websites. You know, we know Hardie does make products. Nichiha is another one that makes products like that. So we're just recommending that they look at those options. It's a composite siding. It's, you know, the same material. It's just not wood. And it's not I think that's 5/16 or something like that in terms of the Hardie typical thickness.
What we're seeing there.
Yeah, and actually, I think he's got some samples of some of the tongue and groove or shiplapped that's much thicker. That is not the look that they're trying to achieve and not recommended. At that point, those are not appropriate as options. They match other historic materials in other houses, but not on theirs.
And just to clarify, what is the difference between what we saw versus like the Artisan series? And as far as the difference in depth?
It's the thickness, and they specifically have that series. One of those is an Artisan, but it's a shiplap, so it leaves a groove. But they have one that is a true bevel, okay? So that's the only thing. I'm sure it's more expensive.
Okay, that was my next
That would
question.
be one issue. Material, just pure fact. The amount of material in it is thicker, it's more material. It'll be more expensive than the lesser thickness material.
Okay.
From Hardie or anybody else. That's just a matter of manufacturing and cost.
On the thickness.
Thanks.
I mean, like thickness versus you're still gonna have the same profile. I don't know, other than if you get up there with a measuring, like from the street or whatever, it's gonna still look the same profile as, because it's still, other than, I guess you have a thicker application of fiberboard. Imagine it's probably, if it's 3 times as thick, then it's gonna be 3 times as much on cost.
Ryan, is there anything in the specifications that we have in planning in y'all's department that specifies thickness, length, width on Hardie plank in a situation like this that would have been given to the applicant?
As far as a minimum thickness.
Yeah,
for-
right,
for-
minimum
for-
thickness.
For
Right,
buildings,
minimum
for
thickness,
building standards?
Right, yes, sir.
I'm not sure about that. Would the director have any insight on that?
We do not have any specific thickness requirements in regards to this type of siding. In this case, I think what the applicant is presenting, and they came back to us instead of just doing something different. And what he's proposing from the street and into the naked eye, you won't see the difference. And so I think that plays a factor. Is also what they're proposing, it being readily available. Some of the recommendations that were made about the Artisan is not always readily available in the volume that you need. And then the cost is quite a bit expensive. So the question is, of the board, can you see the difference? Can you tell the difference? And that's pretty much where staff stands on it.
Thank you, Mr. Director.
I'd like to fall on the mercy of your committee here. I'm already having to start a legal fight with State Farm because they're denying replacement cost on it. They drug their feet for a year, wouldn't settle the claim. Now I'm having to take them to court. So, hey, I'm already pinching pennies to try and make this work. So any consideration you could give me would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? All right, hearing no other questions, do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the request.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand.
Just point of clarity, just so we're exact, what thickness are we approving down to?
Since it makes no difference in appearance, I'm willing to go with what they've recommended.
3/8. I think it's
The hardy plank.
Sorry?
the hardy planks, 3/8 of an inch.
3/8, okay,
I-
perfect.
I could get the specifications of it, like the spec sheet, and I could email that over to Ryan. All right, do that to you guys, just so you have it for your records, like, you know, for what's on his file, that's what was installed, and then,
All right, yep, very good.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, item number 5, COA 2515. This is a petition by James B. Ward for a certificate of appropriateness at 2403 Wrightsboro Road, located within the Somerville Historic District. The request is to install a brick and stucco finished cinder block wall 8 feet in height and a brick columned decorative aluminum fence 5 feet in height on the property. Here are some photos of the subject property on Wrightsboro Road. And here are the plans presented by the applicant. You can see where in pink or magenta is where the 8-foot wall will be placed on the property, and in the yellow dashed lines, that's where the 5-foot fence will be placed. Here are sample designs of the fence and of the wall, which we'll go back to. Here is an elevation showing the 8-foot wall. You can see a portion of it there at the front of the house, as seen from Wrightsboro Road. This property is situated at the northwest corner of Wrightsboro Road and Whitney Street. It features a 2,878 square foot home, originally built in 1900. There is also an accessory residential unit at the back of the property, which was originally built in 1926. There have been no recent petitions brought to the HPC regarding this property. The petitioner is requesting approval to erect new fencing on the property. The fencing will be a combination of 2 designs, as mentioned, adjacent to neighboring property at 2405 Wrightsboro Road. They will install an 8-foot tall cinder block wall. The wall will be accented with brick and paneled with stucco, concealing the cinder blocks. It will connect to the home on one end and to that rear accessory unit on the other end. Along Whitney Street, they are proposing a 5-foot tall decorative aluminum wall with brick columns. There's a site plan that we just showed indicating the course of each wall design on the property that's attached with this application. Based on information that was presented to the Board of Zoning Appeals in their review of these walls and fences, the height of the wall, especially the 8-foot wall, was designed as a response to an incident of trespassing and violent conduct that occurred recently in the backyard of the property. The property is situated along the north side of Wrightsboro Road at the southern boundary of Somerville. This corridor features a wide range of building ages and styles. The properties across Wrightsboro Road to the south are outside of Somerville jurisdiction. The project broadly conforms to applicable Somerville design guidelines, and the property is zoned R3B, multiple family residential. The proposed fencing exceeds the by right height maximums for the zoning classification, which would be a maximum of 4 feet along Whitney Street and Richmond Lane, and 6 feet maximum adjacent to 2405 Wrightsboro Road. The petitioner therefore requested a variance from the BZA to grant this height increase. At their meeting on March 17th, the BZA approved this variance request. Comments from Historic Augusta. The proposed design is acceptable and meets the Somerville design guidelines in concept, although we recommend limiting the height to 6 feet in areas visible from the street and by neighboring lots. It appears that the wall will not be finished on the neighbor's sides, which will not only be unsightly with exposed cement block walls visible to the neighbors, but will also be visible from the street. Exposed cement block walls do not comply with the design guidelines. The wall should be finished in a similar design on both sides. We also recommend asking for more details on how the brick cap on top of the wall will be finished and suggest asking for a section drawing to show its design, dimensions, and finishes. Staff at this time is recommending approval of the wall and fence, subject to any conditions as the commission deems appropriate.
Is the applicant present? Give us your name and address, and do you have anything to add to the application and following any of the recommendations or whatever they mentioned about the finishing of the wall?
No, my name is Pam Ward. I'm at 2403 Wrightsboro Road. I'm representing my husband, James Ward, in this. And we have nothing new to add since filing this application or receiving approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals on the 17th.
Do we have anyone from the audience who would care to speak to this issue? Going once, going twice. Commissioners, do you have questions of the applicant?
Are you going to finish both sides of the stucco wall?
Yes,
that
we
was
can-
recommended?
We can certainly do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Other questions?
Is there a plan on how to finish the brick columns on top to cap them off? Is it just going to be left flat like that, or?
My understanding would it would be flat and all brick, but if there's a recommendation for something more ornamental, we're definitely open to it.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
I wondered if Historic Augusta could weigh in on that, like a possible, what you may have had in mind when you wrote the recommendation as far as how it should be finished on the top of the brick columns.
Rob Malden. Basically, the thickness of a block wall is going to match the depth of the brick, even when it's laid lengthwise, you know, as basically a flat member, 4-inch wide by 8-inch long. That means that it's flush and actually recessed or offset. So the concern is this is showing a reveal, which is appropriate, that it's out past the face of the, and that's why we asked about a detail to just confirm how they plan to build it. It's recommended that it be at least an inch past the face of the stucco. So you have stucco on both sides of, I'm assuming, an 8-inch thick block wall. So you'd end up with a brick and a half, okay? Typically, historically, they would lay those alternating. So, but you always see the same edge of a 4-inch brick. So that's the only concern, is that all those details are picked up and understood so that it doesn't end up unsightly on either side of the wall.
What he described, would that be amenable to you to incorporate into the design?
Sure, that's fine.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion?
I have a motion to approve.
Yeah, a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
With or without the recommendation?
With recommendations, with, yeah.
Before we get to a
Can you articulate what the recommendation you want is? Because there was discussion, but no one articulated from the board exactly what the representation will be.
Okay, the brick cap would be extending at least 1 inch beyond the face of the stucco on each side, and that it would be mortared and laid so that the consistent edge is in the appearance. That makes sense. It's going to be roughly 1.5 bricks. So every other one is cut and, alternating. Okay.
All right, I recommend motion to go with what Mr. Molden said with his findings and how that should show.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Raise your hand. Motion carries. On to the next COA.
Thank you.
All right, item number 6, a COA 2516. This is a petition by Samuel D. Beard Jr., a Studio 3 Design Group, on behalf of Magnolia LLC for a certificate of appropriateness at 816 Cotton Lane, located within the Downtown Historic District. The request is to install a roof cover over an existing courtyard. And here are some photos of the subject property at Cotton Lane. And here are the plans presented by the applicant, which we can go back to. There's some renderings here. All right, the property is situated just off Reynolds Street at its intersection with 8th Street. Features an office building and restaurant. The buildings date per property records to 1906. There have been no recent petitions to come to the HPC regarding this property. The petitioner, on behalf of the owner, is requesting approval for a new roof covering to service the restaurant. The roof will provide shade to diners and would be constructed with KDAT, or kiln-dried after treatment lumber, and white membrane surface. Painted aluminum downspouts and gutters. Elevations and renderings are attached with this report. The roof cover would be situated within an interior courtyard, and visibility of the cover would be limited, particularly from view of Reynolds Street. The property is situated along the Reynolds Street corridor in the northern portion of downtown, closest to the Savannah River. Relative to Broad Street, buildings are more spaced out in this area, and there is a higher concentration of off-street parking, especially gravel lots. The Augusta Convention Center and the Morris Museum of Art are located to the west, while River Place condominiums are situated to the east of this property. The project does not present any apparent conflicts with the downtown design guidelines, and the property is zoned B2, that's a general business zoning. There are no zoning issues presented by this petition. Comments from Historic Augusta. It appears the proposed design of the cover over part of the courtyard will comply with the downtown design guidelines and will provide an outdoor dining space that will be protected from the elements. Staff recommend approval of this petition as it is presented, and that concludes that presentation.
Is the petitioner present? Please step forward, state your name and address.
Jim Webb with Studio 3 Design Group. My partner, D. Beard, he had a conflict, so he asked me to sit in for him tonight. And I'm aware of the project and aware of the area also.
Do you have anything to add, or in other words, you okay? I mean, anything to add to the presentation? Or
No, sir. Yeah, I mean, everything's pretty well shown in the rendering and the drawings themselves. Like you said, that the framing will be kiln-dried lumber, and then we'll have a metal roof and then painted gutters and downspouts. It sits between two buildings, the courtyard, which has been the restaurant. That building has been a restaurant for the last 2 or 3 different owners, and the courtyard's always been there, and he just wants to be able to shade the outside area and protect it from the elements.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd care to address the issue or the COA? Going once, going twice. Okay, gentlemen, the commission, ladies, do y'all have a question for the petitioner? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Question, Mr. Yes.
All right.
For the, I don't have my downtown guidelines with me. When you said metal roof, is that appropriate in the guidelines for Broad Street?
The design as presented, yes, it is appropriate.
It is, okay. In that case, I make a motion for approval.
Have a second?
Second.
I have a proper motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Let's go on.
Thank you very much.
All right, item number 7, this is COA 2517, a petition by James Webb of Studio 3 Design Group on behalf of Christine Nelson Chung and Jason Chung for a certificate of appropriateness at 2540 Henry Street, located within the Somerville Historic District. The request is to expand the front porch, build a rear addition to the house, and to replace existing windows. Here are some photos of the subject property along Henry Street, and here are the plans presented, which we can go back to. There's an elevation, and some more elevation. All right. This is a 0.31 acre property situated along the south side of Henry Street between Montesano Avenue and Fleming Avenue. It features a 2,816 square foot home, originally built per property records in 1921. A window contractor had originally applied in October of 2024 to this commission to replace the home's wood windows with Fibrex windows. That was application CUA 2449. The request was denied, largely because of changes to the muntin patterns and the color of the framing. The current applicant, on behalf of the owner, is seeking a more expansive renovation. Their request is to make additions to the front porch and to the rear while making replacements to the windows. Elevations and a site plan have been provided with the application. The front porch would be extended to the west end of the house. New columns and rails would be installed, and shingle roofing would cover the extended porch, matching what's on the house now. On the rear, a new garage, mudroom, laundry room, and covered porch are to be added, with stucco siding matching what exists. New windows, as they are shown on the presented plans, appear to feature the same altered muntin patterns as what was previously denied. The properties along Henry Street are mostly characterized by relatively narrow and deep lots with enhanced front setbacks. Most lots feature single-family homes built in the 1920s and 30s. With respect to Somerville design guidelines, the conformity of this project is mixed. The property is zoned R1, one-family residential. There are no zoning issues presented as a result of this petition. Comments provided by Historic Augusta. This application lacks detail that would be useful to properly evaluate the proposed work. For instance, there is no front elevation that shows the addition as it relates to the main house, which will be visible from the street. This is particularly important in evaluating the apparent front-facing garage door, which is contrary to the Somerville design guidelines. We question if the garage addition allows enough space to turn an automobile in order to avoid requiring backing all the way down to the street. The enlarged front porch appears to be in a complementary design that would meet the design guidelines. In regards to the windows, the applicant does not state why all windows in the house require replacement, or if there's any reason that they cannot be repaired. The muntins in the photos, 6/1, and in the proposal, which are 3/1, are not the same configuration, and therefore, in some cases, would result in a light pattern that does not match the existing windows. Guidelines for windows can be found in the Somerville Design Guidelines on pages 75 to 78 and should be consulted for this project. As far as the staff recommendation, there are three distinct matters for the commission to consider in this case. One, the expansion of the front porch, the addition to the rear of the home, and the replacement of the home's windows, along with the new windows for the home addition. Generally, staff is comfortable with the plans presented for items 1 and 2, but has concerns with the change in muntin patterns, considering especially that such a change was already denied by this commission in October. At this point, we would recommend a postponement to allow the petitioner to consider a revision of the window designs and make other changes as you deem necessary based on what's presented. That concludes presentation.
Is the petitioner present? Name and address.
Jim Webb, 801 Montesano Avenue.
And I'm Christine Nelson Chung, and I live at 2540 Henry Street.
Do you have anything to add to the presentation, or can you address this issue possibly about the windows? Or
Well, the windows, and well, also they was mentioning about the drive for the garage. Well, the property's only so wide, so I mean they have to. You have to back out the drive now, regardless of the garage or whatever's back there. So there's no turnaround area as mentioned. And then the garage door will be a cottage type door for the neighborhood. Now, as far as the windows, the muntin design, I live on Montesano, right around the corner from Henry Street. And driving down Henry Street, on the corner of Henry and Fleming, there's a house there that has 3/1, just like we're proposing. On the other end, on the corner of Henry and Montesano, that large gray house has 3 different type of muntin considerations. They have 6/6 and 3/1, no, 3/2, and then one is just 1/1, no muntins at all. So they have 3 different types, and all the other houses on Henry Street, they vary from 6/6 to 6/1 or 1/1. All of them, they vary. And so, and as far as they want to replace the windows, it's because of she would like to, a little bit more light available, and also she would like to get the windows insulated to protect the, provide the energy requirements they need for the windows. She don't want to put storm windows on the outside, which you don't recommend, and she'd rather not put them on the inside either, because it takes away from the look of the windows from the inside. She likes to have full visibility to the outside. Other than that, I would just let her give her explanation, and we'll see.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, as Jim stated, my primary concern with the windows is energy conservation. I believe it's really important for us to, maximize our ability to reduce the flow of hot air in the summer and cold air in the winter. And so in addition to that, we also have the limitation of all of our windows are painted shut. So they're not even accessible for a safety consideration or for ventilation of the house. So we need to do something, and our belief is that this is probably the most prudent and forward-thinking way to go about doing this. Additionally, I love the street. That's why we are living there, and I like the opportunity to enhance our view and be a contributing part of this neighborhood by setting a good example for stewardship for our community. If you have any questions, one other thing I did want to point out is that several of the windows are actually broken, the glass is broken, so I need to, take appropriate measures to do window repairs and replacements as it is. I'm doing quite a bit to try to maintain as much of the historic appeal of my home, but I do need to do a few things to help out. So thank you for your consideration.
Do we have anyone from the audience who would like to care to speak to this address?
Chairman, if I may ask a question? Yes, ma'am. Is the applicant saying that they are unwilling to do this, the 6/1? Or are they saying, just for clarification's sake, I understand what they're saying about various designs along the street. But right now, from an approval standpoint, the 6/1 versus the 3/1 is where the staff has discomfort with. So could they answer the question of, can you do the 6/1?
Please answer.
I would prefer not to. I don't think that what I'm doing is outside of norms that have already been established in the neighborhood. So I'd like to maximize, my view, and I'd like to keep the petition as stated by Jim. Thank you.
Sir, with that being said, there's no reason for us to recommend postponement. They've stated their position on this particular application. And so planning and development staff is recommending approval of item 1 and item 2, and recommending denial of number 3.
May I ask a question then in response to that? So if there are standards that are established with other homes in the neighborhood, I don't understand why there would be a problem with, what I'm asking to do. There are several homes, as Jim stated, that have deviations from what you're stating as the standards.
The only answer I can give you is what was in the statement when I read the introduction for the meeting.
Yes.
In making decisions, the COA Commission may consider, but shall not be bound by precedent. It doesn't matter what your neighbor has or what something happened 10 years ago. I mean, some of us were on here, some of us were not.
Right.
But we're not bound by any precedent, so there's no precedent set. So we're basically discussing your property and your issue with the windows and what you're doing to your home. So, and I'll leave it to that. Anyone else have a comment?
Could I elaborate on that just a bit? So I understand what you're saying. In any local historic district, you ride around, you see other examples of things we don't approve. I mean, in many cases, what has happened is that was done before the local ordinance was in place, which doesn't make it right. And then in some cases, people have not followed the law and have done things under the radar and gotten away with it. But today's point, all we can do is what the guidelines we have to follow and the property we're dealing with at hand, not all the other houses in the neighborhood. But I understand it's frustrating to look at and you see they did it, why can't I? In a lot of cases, that was done before the ordinance was in place.
I understand. I would just like to ask for some consideration. I do like a clear view window with no muttons and to maintain the appearance of being conformative with what your standard is stating. We've specifically designed these windows so that they would give the appearance as much as possible to conform with what the standard is, but still maximizing, me as the homeowner, the ability to enjoy my home, look out my windows, and, be a part of the community. So I would ask for your consideration.
Have a comment?
Hello, I'm John Williams, formerly of 2540 Henry Street for like 20-something years. I did speak out against the windows at the prior meeting. The ones at the time that were proposed, I think, were big casement windows without upper muntins on the upper sashes, so at least we're moving in the right direction. Are you talking about black muntins and frames, or are you talking about white, or
I'd prefer black, yes.
prefer black? Black is usually what ends up on a modern farmhouse. I don't necessarily think this is a modern farmhouse, but, you know, it's not my house.
Right.
So I understand that. That time has passed. I would like to point out the lot is 50 feet wide. It is 50 by 291 feet, if I remember right. I don't know how you'd fit a garage in there, but a forward-facing garage is definitely against the design guidelines. Also, the front porch, I mean, that's personal taste, I guess, but this is one of 4 sister houses that are right there together that all have a forward-facing gable, so it is a little bit of a change to that. I would like to point out, too, though, that the current front porch used to go all the way across the front of the house, so there is a precedent for that. So they removed it many years ago before I was there. I think they got termites and something, and they found out that was an avenue for them, so that was removed. The other houses all have the small double-columned gable facing forward, just over the front door area, and then the porch just extends on across. So I guess that's all I have to say. I would like to welcome Brad Owens to the meeting. Brad, thank you for coming. Thank you for your efforts to become well-informed, even if after the fact.
Any other comments from the audience? Commissioners, do we have any questions?
So just a point of clarification, this is not a forward-facing garage, is it?
Yes, because the way the lot's situated, I mean, it's no way to, unless you put it in the middle of the backyard, which is
Okay.
in the middle of the, you know, the courtyard and all that.
Okay.
But it's only a single-car garage, so that's why half of it can't be seen from the street.
Okay.
And like John said, it's only 50 foot wide. One side, we got about 12 feet, and on the other side, I don't know how they do it, but the house was built with about 2 foot off the property line, so I don't know how they did that. But in reference to the windows, is there anything written as far as the windows have to be 6/6 muttons or anything?
It's to match it.
Yeah.
That's the.
But there's,
guideline is to match
yeah,
the
but
existing
every
sign.
house has got a different window.
No, but for that.
That house, okay.
That property and what's there. Not any, it doesn't dictate.
Just to back up for a second on the windows, we normally don't allow replacement of windows, period, regardless of what style you want to go with, if the current windows are in good shape or could be repaired. I haven't seen anything in the materials that suggests that they are not in a state that they could be repaired. And a window, a brand-new window, is only as good as the way it's installed and into the wall it's installed. It's a great myth among window salesmen and companies that you have to replace all existing windows with these double-paned windows, and you're going to save all sorts of money. In large part, that's a myth. The windows that are in this house have survived, 100 years or more? They'll still be there when we're gone, if they're properly maintained. And the interior storm windows, I challenge that too, because when they're in, you can hardly tell that they're there, and they have the same effect of saving energy. So the point of 6/1 or 3/1 to me is getting far ahead in the game because we haven't proven why the windows need to be replaced in the first place.
Well, as I stated, they're all painted shut, so there would
That can be
extensive
undone. I've restored 5 houses in the local historic district. It's possible to unseal them and to sand them down, repaint, glaze, put them in really good condition, and it is far, far more economical than putting all new windows in, if that's an issue.
Well, I think we're kind of mixing apples and oranges. If the main concern is simply that you have an issue with the muttons, and up until now haven't had an issue with the fact that I'd like to replace my windows, I don't know why we're going in a
Well, that's,
backwards direction.
as we follow the guidelines and stated in Historic Augusta's notes, we don't normally allow replacement of original windows unless they are so far gone they cannot be repaired. These do not seem to fit into that category.
Well, as I've stated, several of them are broken, so I would have to
That,
replace.
a pane of glass, trust me, it's an easy, very cheap fix. It can be done in less than an hour.
And I'd probably put some type of insulated window if I were going to replace.
And they
that
will
glass.
eventually fail. I kid you not. They will eventually fail. These windows have been here for the life of the house. They'll continue to serve the house and you if they're repaired, painted, properly glazed. You'll never realize the difference in savings of the new windows versus what you already have. Not in our lifetimes.
I appreciate your opinion and your expertise. However, my preference is to replace my windows.
I understand, and we have this issue over and over again, that people are drawn to historic neighborhoods. They love the architecture, they love the elements of the neighborhoods, but then some people want to begin undoing the very elements that attracted people to the neighborhood in the first place. The other point I would make, it's not fair to your neighbors who live in the historic district, who have followed the guidelines and have gone above and beyond in trying to maintain the architectural integrity of their houses. Those are the two answers I would give to that.
First of all, I haven't surveyed all of my neighbors to find out who has or has not replaced windows or even bothered to petition for that. That's, I don't think, really relevant to the purpose of my, okay. Well, you're guaranteeing me now, so do you want me to like survey everybody and? Okay.
That there are people in Somerville.
And I appreciate their efforts to do that. As I stated right up front, I would like to, be a part of this community. I honor the historic, appeal of this. That's one of the reasons that I bought the house, was to try to maintain it and keep it up to speed from where it had had some decline over the years. And we're trying to be good stewards of, the home, as well as being good stewards in the neighborhood.
That's all we expect of you.
Thank you. Then I hope that there would be an opportunity for us to move forward.
Questions from the commission? Commissioners, do I have a motion to postpone? Do I have a motion to accept 1 and 2 and deny 3? We have those options on the floor.
If I may, there's a lot going on in this application. The forward-facing garage, which is not within the guidelines, the windows, which we just discussed, and also the front porch. It goes from a double post or double column to a single column, which to me compromises the design of the house. It should maintain those double columns on the original section as well as at the end of the front porch. So that would be acceptable. Okay. And what material would you use?
Composite material, one by composite material, not wood, just so it would rot.
Okay.
Any further comments? Okay, gentlemen, do I have a motion?
I motion to postpone in order to give the applicant a chance to come back with revised plans, taking into account the garage is not according to guidelines. We've already discussed the windows, and to submit a new drawing of what the front porch would look like in maintaining the original configuration of the columns.
So your motion is to postpone?
For insufficient information regarding, in particular, the garage and the design of the front porch.
Okay. Do I have a second to the motion? Excuse me, Ms. Delaney?
Chairman, if I may, this lot, and given the old grid system downtown, the configuration isn't going to allow for the reorientation and the functionality by changing the direction of the garage. we took into consideration with our recommendation the narrowness of the lot, the functionality, how hard you would have to turn if you switch that around. And if you pull in there with a F-150 or a dually or anything like that, you're going to be in a very difficult position. And your 3-point turn becomes a 4 or 5, 6-point turn. So, we did take that into consideration, and that's one of the things that we looked at. That is a very, a narrow lot, and so we took that into consideration.
And there's no garage there now, correct?
That is correct.
And it's a matter of fact that if you live in that district, a lot of houses don't have garages, and that's something that people accept and know when they buy property in that district. Sometimes you have a lot that's big enough that you can do that in a way that maintains the guidelines. Sometimes you cannot. My assertion is that maybe a garage is not possible at all, regardless of the orientation.
Well, it would not be possible with a side entry, non-facing the street, unless you did a rear entry where you walked all the way to the back of the property. Because you got to stay 5 foot off the property line, then you got 24 foot for the garage, that's 29. So that leaves you 21 feet for a turnaround, which requires a minimum of 25 to 30. So, but with the garage, being tucked away, and off to the, over about halfway down the lot. So that seems like the only remedy we have.
That's why we brought Jim on this project, because we knew that there would be, ample consideration given to the constraints, but still being in compliance with what you all expect.
It can be frustrating to live within the guidelines. The good thing is it makes your property more valuable if you live in a historic district that's maintained. An older house is charming. It does have its drawbacks, and sometimes it means giving up a modern convenience like a garage, which a lot of people in Somerville have had to do, and do so willingly in order to live in that district. You have to sort of weigh it out sometimes.
Motion, ladies? Leon?
Would it be helpful to you to come back with addition?
I'll wait till he speaks.
All right.
Mr. Lane, in the staff approval here, I don't see anything about the garage. Are you all saying you all disapprove the building of the garage?
No, sir. Number 2 on the recommendation, the addition allows for them to add a laundry room. So when you talk about relocating the garage, you're talking about some of the features in the connection that could potentially be affected. So we looked at it from that perspective. The addition to the rear of the home encompasses the garage. And so it's an older home. They're trying to improve the functionality of it, and we took that into perspective. So we are recommending approval of number 2.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go with the staff, what the staff recommend, approval of number 1 and number 2, and denial of number 3.
I have a motion to approve 1 and 2 and deny 3. Do I have a second to the motion?
I second it.
I have a second. All in favor, raise your hand.
I have 6 votes in favor.
Okay. Motion carries. Next COA.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, item number 8 is COA 2518. This is a petition by Bray Boardman on behalf of Lenson Neal for a certificate of appropriateness at 603 Gary Street, located within the Somerville Historic District. The request is to demolish the existing home on the property. Here are some photos of the subject property as well as the surrounding area. Here's some additional photos provided by the applicant of the home, as well as some elevations of a potential home to be built in its place. There's a floor plan here. All right. This property is situated at the north end of Gary Street, just east of Millage Road. It features a single-family home of around 2,300 square feet, which was originally built in 1916. There is also an outbuilding in the southwest corner of the property. There have been no recent petitions to come to the HPC regarding this property. The petitioner, on behalf of the owner, is requesting approval to demolish the home. Documentation provided by the petitioner describes the home as dilapidated, and provided photos show that the home has been neglected. The owner intends to build a new home on the lot. The argument presented by the petitioner is that rehabilitation of the current home is not economically practical, and that the owner seeks for the new home to be energy efficient. An appraiser's letter and demolition support form have been presented with this petition. The property is situated at the end of Gary Street in the far northeast corner of the Somerville District. The lot is on a sort of cul-de-sac. 600 Gary Street across from the subject property is outside of Somerville boundaries, while adjacent 601 Gary Street features a home that was built in 1959. The property is zoned R1, one family residential, and there are no zoning issues presented by this petition. Comments provided by Historic Augusta. In checking the boundaries of the Somerville Historic District, this property is definitely on the edge, and it appears that it may be outside the actual line. It does appear from the architectural characteristics that the 1916 date of construction listed in GIS records is likely correct. The house does show on the 1923 Sanborn fire insurance map, but it is difficult to evaluate the application since there are no photos provided and there is no post-demolition plan provided. There are also no inspection reports provided. The Augusta Historic Preservation Ordinance has specific requirements for demolition under Section 7420 and Article 5, 7433 through 7439. And at this time, we did receive those post-demolition elevation plans just a couple of days ago, so staff has not had really had time to properly evaluate those plans. But we would note that the structure does contribute to Somerville architectural character, but it is in poor condition, and the petitioner has presented specific reasons why the new build would be preferable to rehabilitating the home. That concludes that presentation at this time.
Ryan, could you put the elevations up that they did send?
Yes.
So that the audience could see them?
Yes.
Okay.
There.
Did they provide any details about the exterior materials?
I do not believe that we received a materials list. I do believe the applicant is here and may be able to shed some clarity on the materials.
Commissioner in the audience? Please step forward and state your name and address.
Bray Boardman, 2135 Cumming Road. I don't have a lot to add other than what's in the application, just to say that I have a 28-plus year history of historic preservation in both downtown and Augusta. I happen to, and I've been before this group numerous times. I live in a house that's 1911 that I did a full restoration on. My office is downtown in a old furniture warehouse that I converted into offices. I have 3 other tenants in there. So historic preservation is huge to me and my family. Also renovated the William Robinson Schoolhouse that I brought from the city and turned that into condos. My mother lives in her 2nd grade classroom. She's 94 years old. So historic preservation is huge to me. I don't come before the group lightly in asking for a demolition permit, but I've had a structural engineer look at this, and I've done, as I said, numerous construction projects, so I'm very familiar with historic renovation and what it costs. My other 2 projects, I got LEED certification on those. Those are leadership in energy and environmental design. I want this house to be like those, and to do that, it's in the condition that it is. It's not economically practical to try to restore it. I've got plenty of pictures. I saw there were a couple comments by Historic Augusta I didn't understand, but I did provide, an inspection report. I had structural engineers go through there and look through the entire building, and I provided all of the pictures that were required per the application. I've got numerous ones if you want to see the inside, but it's about as bad as the out. But I'm available to answer any questions.
Anyone in the audience like to speak to this COA? Eric?
I'll just say, Eric Montgomery, Historic Augusta. I'll just say that when the materials were sent to us to review, they did not include pictures or any reports. So that's why.
Oh, well, that's in the application. The inspection report was in the application by the,
Okay.
It was there from the get-go, from day 1 that I submitted it.
We didn't see it.
Okay, well, it was in there. It was part of the package.
The inspection report is on page 190 and 189. So it was somewhat covered. And then there's also some more supporting documentation in your packet on page 197. And Chairman, if I may, we recommended postponement because we didn't have the post-demolition plans, which is standard based on the guidelines. Now that we have a post-demolition schematic, we would like to refine our recommendation and change it to approval with compliance to the concept plan as presented.
Okay, commissioners, you have questions? Okay.
Carla, can I ask you a question? I'm looking for the demolition, not the demolition, the engineer's report. You said it was 190, but those are just photographs on what I have. But we had a lot of applications, and there were a lot of addendums, so it could be that it got confused. I see where the appraiser, what he has to say, but I don't see an engineer's report. But that could be me.
So it was in my draft packet, so I'm not 100% sure that your packet is matching mine identically, but Ryan has it.
Is this what you were looking at?
Yeah, that's the appraisal report, the engineer's report.
Yes.
It's the same thing? Yeah. Okay.
That report was in my original application. It was after the appraisal letter. If y'all see that, it was the next page from Cranston Engineering. That's 4 pages with photographs.
From Cranston, right?
That's correct. It follows that appraisal letter.
I don't think we have the Cranston letter in here.
No. Okay.
Well, we apologize for that. So sorry. This is a big packet, so we do apologize, but we'll get that to you so that you can see it. with regards to the structural assessment. So we have it upstairs, so I apologize if you will allow us to table it while we go grab it. If that's the will of the body, we'll go grab it.
I want to get this handled, so if you don't mind, have someone pick it up and come back so we can see it. Thank you, Mr. Laney.
All right.
Hold you over just a little longer.
Okay.
Have to go to the next one, and we'll pick it
Okay.
back up.
Thank you very much.
Next, COA.
All right, our next item for discussion, COA 2519. This is a petition by Martin Washington on behalf of Property Brothers and Sisters Holdings Incorporated for a certificate of appropriateness at 204 Telfair Street, located within the Old Town Historic District. The request is to construct a new single-family home on the property. Here are some photos of the property and the surrounding area on Telfair Street. And here are the plans presented by the petitioner, which we'll go back to. All right. This property is situated near the southwest corner of Telfair and 2nd Street. Currently, the lot of approximately 3,360 square feet is vacant. There have been no recent petitions brought to the HPC regarding this property. The petitioner is requesting approval for construction of a new 2-story single-family home. Details of the construction include, but are not limited to, the following. The home is around 20 feet wide and 38 feet deep, with 3 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms. Chosen materials include double-hung wood windows and fiber cement board siding. The elevations appear to indicate a shingle roof, though a quote was provided for a metal roof. Elevations, floor plans, and a site plan for the home are attached with this report. The character of this stretch of Telfair Street is a blend of older homes and some newer multifamily housing. The area features a number of other vacant lots. The property generally conforms to applicable Old Town design guidelines, and the property is zoned R3C, that's multiple family residential. The proposed use as a single family home conforms to that zoning, and there are no variances needed based on the presented site plan. Comments from Historic Augusta. We applaud the construction of a single-family residential structure on the vacant lot. The overall scale and massing of the proposed house complies with the Old Town design guidelines. We observe, however, that the size of the windows on the front facade is out of proportion to the size of the house, and we suggest scaling it down. The fenestration or arrangement of the windows on the sides and back are very irregular and should be better organized in order to complement the historic houses in the vicinity and avoid their random exterior placement. We also question the use of the floating fan light on the 2nd floor. Fan lights are generally above doors and side lights or above larger Palladian windows. We suggest a rectangular shape for this window. At this time, staff recommend approval of the petition with the materials chosen of fiber cement board siding, wood windows, and asphalt shingles. We'd also recommend addition of any conditions as the commission deems appropriate. That concludes presentation.
Is the petitioner attendance? Please state your name, address.
Martin Washington's my name. I'm here on behalf of 204 Telfair Street. My address is on Montclair Street, but 204 Telfair Street.
Do you have anything to add to this report and the application?
No, I'm excited about building new construction in Old Town. And these are the plans that me and my architect came up with that fit the size of the lot. And I appreciate the feedback. I'd be, open to discussion about the window size, if that's something that we need to discuss or something that we need to modify. But it is as written. My presentation is as written.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience care to speak to this application? Going once, going twice. Okay, commissioners, do you have questions of the applicant with this at this time? Commissioner Beret, have a question?
Yeah, I'm trying to formulate one. So you're amenable to the suggestions that Historic Augusta made regarding the windows? The size of the windows. The windows in the back of the house, are they by design because of architectural elements such as a bathroom or something like that that dictate the placement of those windows, or?
That's correct. Some of the smaller windows are either in the laundry room or in the downstairs bathroom. I think one of the suggestions was the fan, the half moon, right? That could be adjusted to a square.
Okay.
That's no problem.
So that's no problem.
I didn't, my architect just asked me if I wanted a half moon. I said, yeah, I want a half moon. That's how easy that was.
Yeah.
I too like the larger windows on the front of the house. I too have done some restoration in Old Town. In coming up with this design, I didn't take into account this new construction's size of the side windows in relation to the other houses in Old Town. And if all we have to do is make the windows larger on the side of the house, with the exception of the front, because those are considerably larger than, as long as they're not encroaching on a bathroom, that can be done.
Okay. And you're using fiber cement board siding, correct?
Yes, similar to, probably identical to what the gentleman had earlier.
And wood or clad windows, not vinyl windows, correct?
Not vinyl. We're using wood windows. Pella is a manufacturer of wood windows, and we'll be using wooden windows.
Okay.
Fiber cement will be the hardy plank, hardy board, similar to what he brought in earlier.
Yeah.
There was something in there also about the columns in the front being wood. I would like to talk about that. Like, what is the requirement? I mean, because of course they're going to be wood. I mean, like you're so definitive about the windows being wood.
Wood or,
what are we suggesting about the two front porch posts?
That they not be vinyl for certain.
Right.
Would be the biggest problem. Normally wooden columns, just because you can't get that look any other way than to go with wood. And it's somewhat protected, so I don't think rot would be such a big issue with that.
Right, we can use a pressure-treated 6x6 with the metal foot.
With the same design you presented, correct?
With the same design that I presented, yes. And I have no problem with those being wood.
Okay.
They wouldn't be vinyl.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was reading the guideline here as far as the roof. The roof you're going with is what?
Asphalt shingle?
Asphalt shingles?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Ryan, sorry.
Any other questions?
I was going to say, if we do an approval pending the size of the windows be adjusted, can we do a staff approval and have you consult at least one of us before you give the final approval?
We could arrange that, yeah.
Okay. And I should have said earlier, it's very exciting to see a house being built on that lot. I'm very familiar with that street, so
Thank you.
I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Is that in form of a motion? Is it in form of a motion?
Yes, with the windows being adjusted in size on the side of the house pending staff approval, and Ryan will consult with one or more of us on that before we give him final approval.
Dr. Hall, do you second the motion?
Second.
Dr. Hall, second the motion. We have a proper motion and second. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
All in favor?
All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
COA, are we back?
All right, thank you, Mr. Washington.
I appreciate it. Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
Logistically, my final question is, when can we get started building? I'll start with the answer first. After we modify this size of the windows, I'll submit it back to Ryan. Do I have to wait a whole nother, the layman's terms of what y'all just said, do I have to wait another month?
No, you don't.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Do we have another COA?
We do, yes. So our next item on the agenda, COA 2520, a petition by Tim Ross on behalf of Partridge Inn Owner LLC for a certificate of appropriateness at 2110 Walton Way, located within the Somerville Historic District. The request is to install a pergola on the rooftop of the building. Here are some photos of the subject property, the Partridge Inn. And here are the plans presented. We'll go back to these as necessary. Here's also some renderings provided by the architect. All right. This property is situated at the corner of Walton Way and Hickman Road. It also borders Meggs Street to the west. The parcel was home to the Partridge Inn, a hotel originally built in 1836. No recent petitions have been brought to the HPC regarding the main hotel property. However, approval was granted in 2023 and extended in July of 2024 to demolish a non-contributing structure on an adjacent lot owned by the hotel to expand their parking allocation. The petitioner is requesting approval on behalf of ownership to construct a pergola on the hotel rooftop, which serves as a restaurant and bar for the hotel. The pergola, which would be built with white aluminum, would allow for additional lighting and ceiling fans for patrons. The property is situated along Walton Way in the eastern portion of Somerville and is located across Walton from the Bon Air, an erstwhile rival hotel that has since been converted to housing. Other residential uses surround the hotel as well, both single-family and multifamily. Although the Somerville design guidelines do not readily address the nature of this property and the project, there are no clear conflicts between the guidelines and this project as it's presented. The property is zoned B1, that's neighborhood business. There are no zoning issues presented by the petition. While hotels are not a permitted use in the B1 zone as it is written, the Partridge Inn maintains a legal nonconforming status. Comments from Historic Augusta. The proposed pergola as proposed appears to be complementary to the existing eclectic architectural style of the Partridge Inn. Although it will be visible from a number of directions, the multiple existing roof lines on the building will allow this one to blend with the many others relatively seamlessly. The design and aluminum framing that is proposed will be easy to remove if desired in the future and will not require significant changes to the existing structure. At this time, staff is recommending approval of the petition as it has been presented. That concludes presentation.
Is petitioner present? Please come forward, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Alex Campbell. I'm a principal with Rabin Architects located at 260 Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm here on behalf of the petitioner, Tim Ross, for 2110 Walton Way.
Do you have anything to add to the application?
Mr. Chairman, I do. The applicant is looking to add the shade structure to increase functionality of the rooftop for the patrons and residents of the city of Augusta and guests visiting the Partridge Inn. to provide additional shade and covering, to extend the usability and functionality so that the guests may enjoy the beautiful view of downtown Augusta. As the architects, we took care to create a design without columns that gently touched the existing facade so as to provide minimal disturbance of the original architecture and also to complement the existing structure and not detract from it. We consulted Chapter 4, the guidelines for new construction and additions from the Somerville Design Guidelines, and we provide 5 elements to the design for your consideration. First, the design differentiates from the old construction by using a simple louvered pergola design. 2, the design is compatible with the massing and scale of the rooftop spaces. Number 3, it blends harmoniously with the existing and with its multiple roof lines. Number 4, it has a very limited visual impact from surrounding areas. And number 5, and most importantly, the design protects the integrity of the existing hotel property. Our own investigations of the site, both walking and driving in surrounding neighborhoods and surrounding areas, we found that there are very few vantage points where this rooftop pergola will actually be seen, primarily because, as historic Augusta mentioned, the multiple roof lines do a great job of helping to conceal and hide this pergola addition. And then finally, the addition uses modern materials that complement the existing structure, but differentiates this from the old and existing as an addition so as not to confuse the viewer on what is historic versus new, as is written in the design guidelines for the Somerville Design Guidelines. Thank you. Any questions?
Do we have anyone from the audience that cares to address this issue? Anyone from Historic Augusta want to say anything at this time? Have any objections? Okay. Commissioners, you have any questions? Yes, Leon?
There's no question from Mr. Campbell, but I just want to say that I appreciate that because I finally can go up there when it's raining.
That's the idea.
Yeah. And then secondly, what you're putting up, definitely I appreciate the fact that if it doesn't work, it can come down without doing any, I guess, any injury to that fantastic historic building that we call the Partridge Inn. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. We took care to make sure that we were delicately and very gently touching the existing structure so that it could be maintaining the integrity and the historic, integrity of the historic structure.
That's all, Mr. Chairman. It look like everything.
Any other comments? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
I have a second to the motion. We have a proper first and second to the motion. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do we have another COA, or can we go back to the COA that's tabled?
We have one more. We do have the information that we were looking for. Do we want to go back to that one, or it's up to you?
Go back
to the chair.
You want to take the next one? Go to the next one. All right, we'll take the next COA.
All right. And so item number 11, COA 2521. This is a petition by Johnny Scarborough for a certificate of appropriateness at 1317 Millwoods Road, located within the Somerville Historic District. The request is to replace the existing metal roof with a shingle roof. Here are some photos of the subject property. You can see on the top left, and as well as some surrounding properties in that neighborhood. This property is situated along the western side of Millwoods Road, south of Central Avenue, and north of the road's terminus at Richmond Avenue. The home approximates 1,728 heated square feet and dates per property records to 1926. No recent petitions have been brought to the HPC regarding this property. The petitioner is requesting to replace the metal roof on the home with shingle roofing. To support the request, the petitioner has provided photos of nearby shingle roofs and comparative quotes from his roofer for metal and shingle roof options. Those are included in your packets. The property is situated along the south side of Millage Road in southeast Somerville. Generally, properties in this area of Somerville are characterized by relatively narrow lots, often 50 feet wide, and homes originally built in the 1920s. Page 2 of the Somerville Design Guidelines advise the following. When replacing a roof, match original materials as closely as possible. Avoid, for example, replacing a standing seam metal roof with asphalt shingles, as this would dramatically alter the building's appearance. When the exact material is not available, attempt to match pattern, color, and size as closely as possible. Therefore, the request does contradict the Somerville Design Guidelines as they are written. Comments from Historic Augusta, roofs for residential rehabilitation are covered in the Somerville Design Guidelines on pages 81 and 82. Item 2 states, when replacing a roof, match original materials as closely as possible. When the exact material is not available, attempt to match pattern, color, and size as closely as possible. This application does not comply with the guidelines since it proposes to change the roof materials from metal to shingle, presumably asphalt composition shingles. And in staff's view, this is ultimately a financial hardship case. Per section 7427 of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, where by reason of unusual circumstances, the strict application of any provision of this chapter would result in exceptional practical difficulty or undue economic hardship upon any owner of a specific property, the Historic Preservation Commission, in passing upon applications, shall have the power to vary or modify strict adherence to said provisions, or to interpret the meaning of said provisions, so as to relieve such difficulty or hardship, provided such variances, modifications, or interpretations shall remain in harmony with the general purpose and intent of said provisions, so that the architectural or historical integrity or character of the property shall be conserved and substantial justice done. In granting variances, the Commission may impose such reasonable and additional stipulations and conditions as will, in its judgment, best fulfill the purpose of this chapter. An undue hardship shall not be a situation of the person's own making. The task of the Commission, then, is to determine, based on the facts presented, whether in-kind replacement to a metal roof would constitute undue hardship to the petitioner. We present this with that recommendation. That concludes presentation.
Is the petitioner present? Please state your name and address.
My name is Johnny Scarborough, 1317 Millage Road, Augusta, Georgia. I have been in that house a little over 5 years now. And I know it doesn't matter a lot to the Historic Society, but I took pictures of 17 houses on my block, and 3 of them are metal roofs. And I know that doesn't matter to y'all, but I'm here for hardship reasons. I live on a fixed income, and a shingle roof, the last best estimate I got was $9,450, and a metal roof was $15,450, I believe it was. A considerable difference. So being on a fixed income, I have a little in my savings, and it's going to go for a roof. It was damaged from Hurricane Helene, and I had insurance on my home, excuse me, with Allstate. And I filed a claim, I just knew I had coverage to get my roof fixed, but they denied it. They said, there's an endorsement in your insurance that doesn't cover replacing a roof from a hurricane. So that's the situation I'm in right now. And I have the name of the lady that come out and did the appraisal, she checked out the roof and all that with Allstate, and also with my home. Her name was Danielle Abbey, 847-612-3948. She did the estimate on my home, the damage on the roof. And then several days later, we got that it had been denied, and several different reasons for the denial. But that's the situation I'm in. I still have a leaky roof, and I'd like to get it fixed with a shingle roof because I can also match the color very closely with the metal roof that is on the house. And so I'm ready for any questions.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that cares to address this issue?
I'm Donna Cochran. I live at 724 Green Street.
Okay.
I'm trying to assist Mr. Scarborough in that regard. Due to the damage to the roof, there's been extensive leakage inside, and we enlisted a person to help paint. Alexander with Fresh Coat Painting. He came by today. He has seen the damage due to the inside, due to the damage to the roof. So we were hoping sooner the better to handle this now that we've come to the conclusion. We've been told we should consult a lawyer in regard to Allstate, but at this point in time, that's moot. But Alexander had a great suggestion as far as color, and I think it would be so charming to have an asphalt roof in this reddish color, which the tin roof right now is in this red color. And the actual metal roof, I think, is more than what Mr. Scarborough stated. It's almost double of what versus the asphalt versus the metal. The roofer was here earlier. He left. He didn't stay for us. But it just would be more functional, affordable at this point in time, since we're having to bear all the cost, which he will be for that amount, but there is more extensive damage underneath due to those leaks. The decking will need to be replaced at $150 per each piece of wood for that decking, and it will be expensive. And just want to maintain the home, get it to look cute, and no more can be done to the home until some of this is repaired from the roof to the inside. And that's what we want to do, and then come back and paint the outside. We want to keep the actual colors, the green, the red door, and the red door and the roof would look very nice together with the red shingled roof. Would you like to hear from our painter in regards to the extensive damage?
Go ahead, state your name and
I'm Andrew Hughes. I live at 147 Griswood. I appreciate you all taking the time, and I learned a lot with the fact that we were scheduled last year. So it was really neat to be here. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the clarification on some other issues that made it very clear that the metal roof needs to be replaced with a metal roof, if at all possible. I do know that the guidelines state that it should be, the attempt should be to match pattern, color, and size as closely as possible if you can't get the exact same material. I know that the recommendation has been made if asphalt were approved to go and at least try and approve one of those three characteristics with matching the color as closely as possible. I thought the preparation for this was really great. I applaud the folks who did this, but in reading the section that was read to us earlier, 7 TAC 4 TAC 27, It says where by reason of unusual circumstances, and I think here in Augusta, we all know that the hurricane is pretty, I might have said unreasonable, unusual, but the hurricane for us was pretty unusual. I come from Houston, Texas, where we prep for this all the time, but we never thought moving to Augusta we'd deal with this issue. And then, whether or not this creates undue economic hardship, says that you guys can deviate to some degree from the ordinance, but that the modification shall remain in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the provisions. And that's where I would go back to trying to match the color. So I would appeal to your sense of empathy here, that these folks have suffered a loss to their property, which not only affects obviously the roof, the underlying materials that come along with the roof, but then the extensive damage from water ingress into the home that's going to need to be corrected with extensive repairs and repaint. That's going to add a bunch more cost. We haven't got our quote out for them yet, and I'm not sure that we'll be the painter that gets to work for them, but being a victim of Hurricane Harvey as well, when I heard that there was an opportunity to come here tonight and support them, I wanted to do that. So I'd ask you to really consider approving this for them. Visiting the property, I think one of those photos must be from the rear, but from the front of the property looking directly on, the red roof is almost imperceptible that it's a metal roof looking directly on it. From the sides, the percentage of roof that you can see is minimal. So I do believe that overall, the appearance will be maintained if we were to have asphalt roof approved, especially if they maintain the color. So, yeah, I really think the impact would be low. I'm just reading through my notes, and I think aesthetically it would look great and help these folks, help them get their house back in good repair. So I appreciate y'all's time, and I really hope you'll consider what they've gone through and what a lot of us have gone through, and I know you probably have too. So thanks for your time.
Do you have any questions from the audience? Yes, ma'am. Come step here, name and address.
I'm back, Christine Nelson Chung, 2540 Henry Street. And I wanted to stay for the duration of the meeting because I wanted to hear, what other folks were doing in our community. And I just have to say, your home is lovely. And the fact that he's maintained his home in such a beautiful way, and I empathize having limited, income. And I think we should, as a community, make every effort to help this couple maintain their home and stay in their home in a habitable manner. And I think they're doing everything that they possibly can to try to maintain the standards and be, good stewards of their home. And I think that's what the whole point of the historic community is here. And so I would just heartily endorse and applaud their efforts to do this. And I hope that you have it in your hearts to make the right decision. And my shirt says Live Pono. That's a Hawaiian word, Pono. I'm from Hawaii. My husband's Hawaiian Chinese. I embrace the culture of the people of Hawaii. And we are all about doing Pono, living Pono. Ika Pono is what we say. And what that means is to be honorable, live righteously, and do the right thing. And to me, this is a no-brainer. Approving this gentleman and this lady's appeal. So, ika pono.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Okay. Commissioners, do I have comments or questions?
I have a question. Mr. Scarborough, how long ago was that metal roof put on that residence?
When I first bought the home, it said that it was 6 years old. I moved in 2020.
Okay. So that is not original, is that correct?
The original roof.
That's the original, no, when y'all moved in. I'm talking about from day one, when that building, when that house, do you know?
I do not know. The home was built in 1926. I don't think that metal roof would last 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and apparently it hasn't, because it's leaking in several places. But I don't think it's been on that long.
Okay, so
Another thing that they said when I bought the home, that it was 9 years old. So, and this was at the same time. So I really don't know how old that roof is.
okay, all right.
But it's old.
Dave, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
Is the damage so extensive that not only does the tin roof have to come off, but the decking underneath has to be redone? Is that, am I understanding?
From two
correctly?
people that I spoke to, giving me an estimate on the re-roofing, they would have to replace several places under that has been damaged over the years. And they told me that it would be $150 a sheet, 4x8 sheet, I think 3/4 thick, to replace bad decking.
Okay. And the roof itself is beyond repair as far as repainting, repairing the leaks, all of that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's had hail damage. There was a hailstorm a couple of years ago, and it damaged it from that, and the hurricane, and just age has really got that. It wouldn't surprise me if that was 50 years old.
They can last, though. I have a house that has an 85-year-old roof on it.
Yeah.
Keeping it maintained, it's still good, but I'm taking your word for it that it's
bad.
damaged and it's
Yeah.
got to have decking and all that.
Mhm.
And just to be clear, we do not dictate color on a roof or the body of the house.
I was
Okay.
just charmed by the redness of the roof, the tin roof, because it does look, it has that historical charm, and by thinking out of the box and thinking it would be charming, whereas most everything in the neighborhood is monotone.
That's your choice.
Mr. Chairman, I know we have to take ourselves out of the equation, but how have we handled hardships in the past? You know, do we, I know it tells us what to do here, but do we ask for certain things or what? Or do we just, Mr. Chair?
There's no set procedure. If you feel that you have sufficient information to prove undue hardship, you can act on that. Alternatively, you can ask for further information, like a postponement, which you do often. But it's sui generis. It's every individual case is its own case to be considered.
Thank you. Commissioners, other questions? Okay, gentlemen, ladies, do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the request.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye, or excuse me, raise your hand. All right, now, okay, that final one, Ryan, was that the last?
That was the last COA
So
petition.
now we're gonna go back to the, all right, we're gonna go back to the table COA. Mr. Boardman.
Sir, they didn't realize, they don't know what the final outcome was.
Oh.
You want to tell?
You're approved, it was approved, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, so we are now back to item number 8. That was the petition by Bray Boardman for a certificate of appropriateness at 603 Gary Street to demolish the existing home. Since the motion, since the item was tabled, we did receive copies of the structural assessment report done by Cranston Engineering on February 25th of this year. Was there a copy distributed up to? Okay, everyone's great. Okay, so that is now available for consideration, and you may resume consideration.
Mr. Boardman, come back. Commissioners, do we have anyone have any questions for Mr. Boardman? And have you had a chance to review the study? Structural assessment.
Mr. Boardman.
Yes. Is that coming? Oh, I couldn't tell where it's coming from.
I know you've been at this a long time, and you really can't save this one?
I really can't. I mean, I've saved old school, and like I said, I live in a 1911 house, but it was well taken care of. This house has been vacant, and the utilities have been cut off for 8 or 9 years. And it's not, I mean, I've built a lot of these things myself. I'm a subcontractor, and I did the schoolhouse. Richmond County took great care of the schools, so that was a no-brainer. But this one is so far gone. If it wants to be an energy-efficient house, it's not economically viable. Matter of fact, it may even go above market value to restore it. But I'm all about restoring. I don't come present that application lightly.
Yeah, no, that's why I asked you that question. So, are you sure you can't save this? Ryan, we've been through so many. After you all looked at this and got hurt, what was y'all? I know at first you all wanted some time, so I believe there's been a change of heart.
We amended our recommendation because initially with the packet, we did not have a post-demolition plan. That didn't come in until March 25th. So just a few days ago, we got that. And once we saw the post-demolition plan, which is on the screen now, we changed our recommendation to approval. And then, of course, the structural report adds another level, the other level that was questioned, so.
Right.
Staff is recommending approval with the requirement that they comply as closely as possible to the concept plan as presented.
Okay. On that note, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we approve this with staff conditions, what Carla just said.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
With staff conditions.
Staff conditions. Okay. All right, I have a motion, properly motioned, and proper second. All in favor, raise your hand.
Thank you. Thank you for y'all's time for volunteering to do this. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other agenda items, Ryan?
Yes, item number 12 on your agenda is a discussion of updates to the Augusta Historic Preservation Ordinance, HPC bylaws, and/or rules of procedure. I will defer to the director.
I don't have a clicker, so don't go too far. All right. So just in general, there's not going to be a smoking gun here. I'm going to move fairly swiftly. There's not a whole lot that's broken, okay? I haven't deviated from where I stood on it last November. So this is a collaborative approach. This is not the department handing down something we think you should enforce. There are a few definite recommendations, which are going to be easy, and they're not going to be grasped, but I'm going to walk you through it, and it'll be very brief, okay? All right. All right, so what is entailed is the review of the bylaws, the review of the ordinances, and then we visit the guidelines. So our starting point, I don't know how well you can see it, looks pretty small on my screen, so it might be too small on your screen too, so for that I apologize. But what you'll notice is I've highlighted some changes that definitely need to be made. When you look at jurisdiction, we're changing things like the language from Augusta-Richmond County Planning Commission to the Planning and Development Department. So these are minor edits. You'll see things where under Article 4, members, officers, and duties, we're not trying to change the structure. We're changing it to the residents of from the residents of the city to Augusta-Richmond County. So, because a lot of the language in these bylaws was prior to consolidation, so it wasn't accurately updated. So the bulk of our changes are going to be of this nature, okay? All right, and then naturally, of course, where our meetings are held, now we're up here, so that will change again. But they still had it at in the wrong location, so we had updated that. And then if you move over to the next one, Article 6, again, we made another correction to the development of the department. So this is just the very first item. And like I said, there's nothing structurally that we're trying to change here, okay? So we're gonna move on to some of the staff recommendations for consideration. Now, we want to include a provision for extension of decision by HPC due to the state of emergency declarations. So this came up, of course, with Hurricane Helene. There are no provisions where we can, at the staff level, have a quicker turnaround. So this meant, can we incorporate some type of Zoom meetings? Sam, you're going to have to weigh in on these, or a way that we can rally quickly. With the hurricane came, we found ourselves with a lot of applications that came in, and so we were trying to see what we can do. And so this is one of the things we want to talk about, extension of the decision by HPC due to state of emergency declarations. We need to add a provision to cover that, okay? So we don't have people waiting 45 days for a roof and things of that nature. The other thing is we want to move to an online submission of applications for the COAs. We want to go more electronic and do things more digitally, okay? It's nothing egregious. All right. The biggest thing that came up, and this is, Ryan worked on this comparative analysis. We looked specifically in the state of Georgia at municipalities that also had a Historic Preservation Commission. And one of the things that was talked about was how the decisions are made with regards to not just postponements, but when people want to appeal their decision, the final decision. So we did a evaluation to see how the board is comprised. So the composition in the first column, the expertise, the terms, and then you see the staff approvals, and we have 14 listed. Athens has 33 listed categories. You'll also see Columbus has 11. I like how you put Macon's in there as it's complicated. So there was no straightforward methodology that we could capture succinctly. And then, of course, Savannah has 10 categories with 3 or more concurrently requiring board review. And then Atlanta, of course, had quite a few methods for determining staff approvals. So when we initially had this conversation, there were pieces of conversations, some from the public, some from property owners, some from commissioners. And the question became, how can we make the appeals process smoother? Give consideration for people who have a financial hardship. You already demonstrated today that you took into account financial hardship and made a decision based on the information they provided, absent of staff recommendation, because that's something that we don't want to delve into, is the individual's financials. So with regards to appeals, we looked at how Augusta does it. And you file an appeal with the clerk of commission within 30 days, and then mediation within 90 days of the appeal, and the applicant pays for the fees associated with mediation. And then if the mediation is, it does, say for instance, it doesn't go the way the applicant would like, they can go to the Augusta Commission. So there's 3 methods to get to a decision on an appeal, roughly. We looked at Athens, and you filed with the clerk of commission within 30 days to be heard by the mayor and the commission within 60 days of filing further appeal to Superior Court. So there has been conversation about the appeals process shifting to something similar of that instead of mediation. Conversation, no decisions, no recommendations. We're just putting the facts out there, okay? All right, and then the next one is Columbus, Georgia, where the appeals go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And then Macon, it goes to the commission. And then, of course, Savannah, it's a little more complicated, but they do go to the BZ, the Board of Zoning Appeals. So you can see that there's not a true standard way that it's done. Everybody varies just a little bit, but these are the facts. So, you know, I think at this point, it helps you all to know how other municipalities are operating. And it helps you make a more informed decision. If your recommendation is nothing should change on this, if your recommendation is it should be a combination of these things, this is something that should be taken into consideration. In addition to that, we also want to keep in mind Historic Augusta. They wanted to have they wanted to weigh in and have some commentary on the existing ordinance, the bylaws, and the guidelines. And so this is the forum and the opportunity, but this is where we are as a department. We looked at what's out there. We don't see a path that looks to be delineated and specific to everybody doing the same thing. Everybody's doing something a little different. So our recommendation isn't something egregious. We want to fix some of the editing, update it, and then we want you all to tell us if you like the way the appeals are run, if you don't like the way the appeals are run, or have another suggestion altogether. And again, we'll get this to you in writing. And from there, we have some other suggestions, but the umbrella of this conversation was around how the appeals are handled. But for research and discussion, we don't want to put anything out there without collaborating with you all. We wanted to talk, of course, about the appeals process for denials, the post-demolition plans and criteria. That's another one of the things that has come up. As far as even today in our meeting, we talked about, do you have the post-demolition plans? That's a criteria that some wanted to go away. But I will tell you, having researched it, that it is pretty much a standard. It's not unusual. There are exceptions to the rule. So you have already established that you don't have to follow the precedent. There are times when you need to deviate. So does the plan or does the ordinance need to change necessarily? Maybe not. But these are the topics that are utmost important that are being brought back to the department to address and then bring to you all. Revising the pre-approved materials. This is something that needs to happen on a continual basis. We haven't had a real good workshop as a HPC to talk about the pre-approved materials to see if that list should be expanded. We had gone through a phase last year where individual members of the HPC were asking for a spec sheet, and spec sheets weren't required, and things of that nature. So it felt like to the applicant that the criteria was changing for what was required to be submitted. So we have, of course, updated the application and things of that nature. But if you would like to have that spec sheet as a requirement, because that was used in several motions over the last 2 years for denial, postponement, and that frustrated some of the applicants. So that's something that needs to be done. And of course, at a staff level, we are incorporating more checklists to help streamline some of the decision-making. And you'll see the reports start to be tweaked a little bit more. The recommendations will be very, very much more specific. And even today, that's when I asked them, can you go back and refine exactly what you're saying so that when we send their letters of approval, they will know exactly what we have said and what the HPC has recommended. So these are the top 4 issues that have been presented to us as a department with regard to the HPC. These are the top 4 topics that I would like for us to discuss when we don't have an agenda that's quite that long. So today has been a long day. It's after 8 o'clock, but these are the top 4. So I will generate an email with this slide attachment, and we'll see what our agenda is shaping up to be. We'll put it in each packet for the next few months. And as ideas come to you all, we get back together and we say, hey, let's take on 1 or 2 of these today. We don't have to do all of it at once. We do also have a workshop, a work session on April 2nd. in regards to HPC. So there's going to be some conversation around this. So if you already start researching some of the talking points that you might want to have around, these are the top 4 issues. So think about this. Eric, you're here on behalf of Historic Augusta. Think about these 4 topics and see if you have some suggestions, because I do realize that there are things that we can do better as a staff too. There is room for improvement on the staff level. And so we're making those adjustments too. But that being said, I can field any questions you have right now, or you all can run out the door because it's almost 8:30. Not egregious, I told you.
Carla, just one question. I assume Charleston was just too huge. I guess what all their requirements really would put us outside the door.
I didn't consider Charleston because of their funding mechanism. They have more funds dedicated to HPC. They have funds coming out of, I believe, their general fund. So they can do more. So I wanted to look at cities that had some of the same financial constraints potentially that we would have. I would love for us to mimic Charleston, but we don't have money that I'm aware of that's set aside that could be used in the same way.
I'll just add that Charleston is in South Carolina.
While you're here, I'm glad you got me back in the boat.
But it's the money, really, because you can still take what you need.
I was thinking preservation then. I'm sorry.
Guy that was the main one that got this ordinance started back in the early 90s.
And just so you know, we did put in the budget to have the ordinances consolidated, updated. You all know that the budget we got, I won't say it was frozen, but we weren't given the opportunity to present new projects due to some financial constraints. Was at the department level, we did ask for it, we did put it in. So some of these things go in tandem with that. Some of the challenges you all face. In addition to that, I have identified some training. I want to bring the training to us about historic preservation. There's a well-known organization that does an extremely well job. So we are looking at bringing them here and inviting some of our colleagues who do the same thing, other HPC board members, and opening it up for that type of training. So I think it'll be a win. I know they did it in Savannah recently, and that's how we got the information about this particular group. So I'll bring that information back to you once I get sign off from senior leadership.
Thank you.
Or let me say administrator. I'll go through the administrator, then the commission, and then I'll bring it back to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Laney. I look forward to this. Any other information do we have on the agenda? Do we need to go to a legal session?
All right, so item 13, we have approval of the minutes from February 27th.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Do I have a second to the motion?
I second it.
All right, all in favor, raise your hand. Minutes approved. Next item.
All right. And this is information only in the back of your packets. Staff approved COAs from the past month or so. And item 15, legal session. Attorney Meller.
Samuel Meller, Law Department, nothing for the legal session.
That concludes the agenda.
We don't have anything? Good. All right. Do I have a motion? We adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second. All in favor say aye. All right, meeting adjourned.